Hello everyone, this is Rick and welcome to Astral Club. The title of this video is What is an Astral Guide? Before we get into it, let me just do a plug for Patreon. If you'd like to support this channel and the work that we do here on Patreon, you get commercial-free videos early. Instead of waiting to Saturday, you get them on Monday or Tuesday. And you also get email connection to me. And you can ask questions and offer comments, and we can talk back and forth a little bit. And if that's something that you are interested in, there will be a link in the description. I noticed that I think I made a mistake. I should have had a video that was dedicated earlier to talking about an astral guide. What is it? What are the duties, the responsibilities of the job? But we talked about Astral Guide School. We talked about some of my adventures. And I'm somewhat imprisoned in this 20-minute bubble where I have to offer this information in such a way that it can hold people's interest. The bad part about that is I think a lot of details get left out. And it's been brought to my attention that a video like this, talking about astral guides and what the position is all about, will make things, I think, a little bit easier and a little bit clearer. And part of this came up during the prior video. We talked about the soul returning to Earth. If you recall, it was Mary who was the soul that I rescued from hell, and it helped her choose her next life. There was a certain number of people who wanted me to get more into what being gay or homosexual meant, because they felt by me not explaining that fully to her that she made a choice she wouldn't otherwise make. And they're right. She would have made a choice against that lifetime. Now, let me explain to you why I did what I did. But before I get into that, let's talk about guides in general. Now, I've mentioned in the past that as above, so below. So if we want to learn about what happens in the astral, many times we can start with the physical, because there's a lot of similarities between the two. So, what is a guide? Well, the dictionary says a guide is a person who advises or shows the way to others. Another definition of a guide says it's someone who directs or has influence on the course of action of someone or something. Let's think about guides that we have here in the physical. The most common guides are the ones that perhaps lead you through Universal Studios or take you through a guided tour of Paris or Rome, and you're with a group and they take you all together, and pretty much this guide's responsibility is to keep you all together, because we don't like people who break off from the group, right? To keep you all together, to give you good information about the attractions, and to keep you moving on. As responsibilities go, any reasonably intelligent person, knowledgeable about that particular attraction or city, can do the job. And once the tour is over, that guide's responsibility terminates. It's over. Now, there's also guides who have much more responsibility and a greater deal of responsibility for the people whom they are guiding. Take, for instance, a guide who takes people through the Amazon rainforest, or a guide who takes people mountain climbing. Now, you may take people into a rainforest, and these people are not experts on the flora or fauna of the Amazon. And one of those adults may say, hey, it's awful hot out here. I want to take a dip in the Amazon and cool off. The guide, who is responsible for the well-being of this individual and all the rest, may say, no, you're not, because there are large caimans and toothy fish in these waters. And so you're not going to do that. Now, some folks might pipe up and say, wait a minute, he's violating his free will by not allowing him to do this. Well, is that right? Yes, it's right, because he was hired to be a guide to take people safely in and out of the Amazon. And the people who he's taking in and out of the Amazon are not experts on that area. They do not understand the dangers they face. Therefore, they need someone to look after them, to make some decisions for them for their own best interest. The same thing with that mountain guide. He may have people who are not expert climbers. He might take them up a high mountain, a dangerous, treacherous mountain. And one of the individuals might say, hey, let's go up this way, because I heard that's the coolest and the most dangerous, and what have you. And the mountain guide might say, knowing the experience levels of those he is taking up this mountain, that no, we are not going up that way, because that is for experts only. And the people on this mountain trip are not experts. And so in my judgment, that is too dangerous, and we're not going to do that. Well, this mountain guide is interfering with this individual's free will, but he's doing it in his own best interest. Let's look one last guide here. Parents. Now, when someone is 5 years old, a child, they might say, hey, I want to have Captain Crunch, a good sugar cereal, for dinner. I want to stay up to midnight every night. I want to go out play in the streets. Well, a parent, a good parent, would say, no, you're not going to have Captain Crunch, okay, for dinner. You're not going to stay up until midnight, and you're not going to play in the streets. Well, is that parent violating the child's free will? Yes. But no one's going to be mad at the parent, because it's understood that the individual involved, this child, does not understand what is good for it yet. And so it can't make those decisions properly. Now, let's look at an astral guide. Astral guides are much more closely related to those Amazon guides, to those mountain climbing guides, to the parents, than they are to the tourists taking people through Rome or Paris or Universal Studios. Because you're dealing with souls of a wide variety of experience levels. Now, when you have an advanced soul, it's very easy to be their guide, because they know the ropes. They know what they have to accomplish in their next life. They know the choices that they need to make. Your job is really just to have a soft touch, answer their questions, and help them along. It's very easy, and they make the vast majority of the decisions. It's like having an advanced doctoral student who is in their last semester. They know what courses they need to take. If you're in charge of advising them, all you have to do is just make sure that everything checks out, and you sign off on it, and it's done. Now, on the other hand, if you're dealing with perhaps an incoming freshman who is completely unprepared for the courses that they have to take and has no clue, they're going to need a lot of advice and a lot of help. It's similar in the astral. Take Mary, for example. Now, Mary was a novice soul. She did not have a lot of lifetimes, and the ones that she had did not end successfully. For instance, if you recall, her last lifetime ended with a murder-suicide. By any measurements or standards, that is not a successful life. In fact, her guide was fired. I was asked to take over and to help her select her next life. Let's talk about my investment in Mary and my dedication to her before we get to the actual choices. Firstly, I literally went to hell to rescue her. Secondly, I gave forth a substantial amount of my life force to her so that she had the energy to leave that hellish subastral with me. Next, I was asked to take over as her guide. And let me explain to you in more detail precisely what I agreed to. When you agree to be the guide of a soul like Mary, a novice soul, you're not just agreeing for today or for tomorrow or for this lifetime. You are agreeing to shepherd her to whatever degree is necessary for the remainder of the universe until it's all over, or unless you're removed for malfeasance or for idiocy. Otherwise, you are dedicated to this soul forever. So, you see, I've invested quite heavily in Mary. Now, I presented to you 3 sample lifetimes for Mary to consider. Some people ask, oh, is that the number you get? No. I actually reviewed over 1,000 possible lifetimes for her. Those 3 were designed for this 20-minute type video. They were representative and of what the actual average lifetimes would be and what the better ones were. So they were representative. Look at them that way. So there was a substantial amount of work just to get to this place. Now, I don't select these lifetimes. That is done by someone else. I'm merely presented with the lifetimes that she is eligible for. The eligibility requirements are not completely known by me. I know part of it is the karmic end of it. She's got this karma with her ex-husband. And so many of them have him involved. And the ones that don't are kind of like, have you ever flown instead of a direct flight? You take a flight with a stop or two. Well, in lifetimes where he's not involved, it's like booking a flight with one or two stops. In other words, she's going to have to bunny hop into another lifetime after this lifetime, and she's going to have to deal with this guy. So, she has a set number of lives that have been selected. And let me tell you, if I had had the choice of plunking her down in a beautiful area with a beautiful, loving set of parents, where she would end up having 2.5 kids in a beautiful picket fence, I would have selected that for her. I would have encouraged her to select that lifetime. However, that was not part of her choices. The choices she had were the choices that were available based on her level of accomplishment, her mistakes, her karma, what she could choose from. So those three were representative of what we had to work with. Now, that first lifetime in the 1780s in County Cork, in that very rough cottage with an abusive father who would probably end up leaving the family and they'd end up starving. That was the first life. The second life, as you recall, was a single mother. She would be the child of this single mother. Then she would marry, become a single mother herself, and her boyfriend would be her old husband. And then there was the third lifetime that she was presented with, which was the lifetime where she had great parents who would be loving and help her grow, something she never had before, stable people who loved her or him. It didn't seem to bother anybody that she would switch sexes to male, but it did seem to bother some people that she might become gay or homosexual. Now, some folks said, oh, what really bothers me is that you didn't explain it and you violated her free will. Maybe. I also sensed, though, that there were some folks who just didn't like the idea of homosexuality. Look, I'm not here to discuss that. You can believe whatever you believe about homosexuality or anything else. That's not my purview. However, what is my purview is Mary. And I'm telling you, after examining over 1,000 lives, that last one was by far her best opportunity to make progress in this next lifetime. Some folks said, well, if you had told her, gotten into detail as to what homosexuality is, she would have turned that down. And you're right, she would have. Then they said, well, she probably would have chosen number two. Number two, of course, was the single mother, being born to a single mother, then being a single mother. Well, that's you thinking like a 20th century or a 21st century person. I didn't share with you her real thoughts, the deep ones about what she thought about that single mother. Okay, I shared with you the more politer versions. She in no way would have picked that lifetime either. Instead, she would have ended up in that first lifetime with the abusive father or another lifetime much like that. How do I know that? I know that because I now know her mind intimately and because I've seen her choices in the past. I saw her choice of her last lifetime, the one that ended in a murder-suicide. So, that I deliberately did not go into detail because Mary is a novice soul. She is one who has made numerous mistakes in the past. She has demonstrated that she cannot make good, sound decisions when it comes to selecting her next life. So just like that child who is 5 years old and wants to eat sugar cereal, or that adult who wants to take a dip in the Amazon in the middle of the rainforest in this tour, or that other climber who wants to take the expert route up the mountain when he is in no way, shape, or form ready or skilled enough to do it, I had to be the tough guide, the one who had to make the decision to withhold that information from her, knowing that if I did, she would make the right choice. Now, as her guide, it is my responsibility for her and for this selection and for her lifetime in this lifetime. I will be held responsible. I'll be held responsible for her for the rest of eternity. I am aware of this. I accept this responsibility. I took it on willingly. I didn't take it for the pay. I can tell you that. I took this because she needed me. And she needed me to guide her to select this particular lifetime. And I'm telling you, after reviewing over 1,000 of her possible lifetimes, this one was by far the best. I stand by that decision. I hope you have a better appreciation now for what's involved with being an astral guide. I don't ask you to agree with every decision I make, but I think perhaps now you have a better understanding as to what an astral guide does, what our responsibilities and duties are, and what part we have to play in the process. We can't just afford to take our charges, especially the ones who really need help, and just say, here you go, here's 3 lives, pick whatever one you want and get out of my face. No, you can't do that, because it's a job forever. So I hope you enjoyed and or appreciated the reason for this. I hope you understand the position I was in and the position of an astral guide in general. If you liked it, hit that like button, share it with those of like minds. If you'd like to leave questions or comments, I'd very much appreciate that. I always like to hear what you guys have to say. As a matter of fact, it's your questions and comments that give me the ideas as to perhaps what next videos I need to do. You know, what areas do I need to develop that perhaps I didn't develop enough, like this video, for example. And lastly, if you'd like to support Astral Club on Patreon, there will be a link in the description. And as always, I am Rick, and your astral guide, and I will see you on the astral plane.